Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Chris Weidenbar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Sally Breckenridge. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. In particular, we warmly welcome the members of the Ramsgate RSL Sub-Branch and Ramsgate RSL Memorial Club who are joining us this evening. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and by students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Katara South Public School, Katara, and St Peter's Primary School, Columbally. From Victoria, Westbourne Grammar School, Truganina, and from Western Australia, Sutherland Dianella Primary School, Dianella. I ask all students and all those who are able to now please stand for the National Anthem. Thank you. Students and those who require a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway lands. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Flight Sergeant Kenneth Harold Rowley. Born in Sydney on the 31st of March 1920, Kenneth Harold Rowley was the son of Jesse and Henry Rowley of the Sydney suburb of Campsie. Growing up, young Kenneth Rowley attended Paddington Junior Technical School. Following his schooling, he worked in various jobs, mostly as a labourer and factory hand. An enthusiastic sportsman, Rowley was particularly keen on boxing and served in the militia, marching part-time with the 60th Anti-Aircraft Search Light Company. At the time of his enlistment in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 9th of October 1942, Rowley was unemployed but had just enrolled at Campsie Continuation School. Beginning training as an air gunner, he was not the most disciplined recruit and on more than one occasion got into strife for turning up late to duty or using insubordinate language to superiors. He once spent 50 days in detention following a district court-martial for verbally abusing a superior. But Rowley did finish his initial training in Australia, embarking for overseas service in Sydney on the 13th of October 1943. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. Arriving in Britain in November 1943, Rowley undertook further specialist training before he was posted to No. 12 Squadron, Royal Air Force, in July 1944. Part of the RAF Bomber Command, No. 12 Squadron was equipped with 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bombers. After serving with the squadron for 3 months, on the night of 23rd to 24th of October, Rowley was taking part in a bombing raid on Essen, Germany, in a Lancaster that was shot down and crashed near the border between Germany and the Netherlands. Rowley and all 6 of his crewmates were killed. They were fellow Australians, Warrant Officer John Phillip, Flight Sergeant Douglas McLean, Flight Sergeant John Kelly, Flight Sergeant Arthur Llewellyn, Flight Sergeant Ian Fleming, and British crewmate, the flight engineer, Sergeant Frank Niblett. Their bodies were recovered from the crash site and buried side by side in the Winterspijk Cemetery in the Netherlands. Kenneth Rowley was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died whilst serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. You will see him in the back row, 5th from the left. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant Kenneth Harold Rowley, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
I ask all the students in attendance and those who were able to please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.